सह विद्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. So there are two aspects of philosophy. One is to tell us what is real, what is not real. What's your real being? What is your confused being? This is one aspect. The next aspect is, this is called Sankhya, logic, yoga, jnana, Brahma Vidya. The next aspect is yoga, yoga shastra. That is how to get out of this confusion and how to feel my real being. That is called yoga shastra or yoga buddhi. Like Gurudev says, every science has two aspects. One, the theoretical, the other applied. So philosophy gives you all the logics, and Yoga Shastra gives us the technology through which you can actualize or internalize this philosophy. So up to now, Bhagavan has given us the nature of the self, which is indestructible, purely from the standpoint of scriptures, logic and scriptures. Right now, he is going to tell us, even from various standpoints, grieving for this death, number one. Number two, not fighting the war, both are not correct even from other standpoints. Leaving pure Vedanta, he is coming down step by step. That's our tradition. Our tradition doesn't believe the student or the listener cannot understand and therefore start from ABC. No, they believe that the student can understand, start at the highest level. If they find there is a difficulty, then they come down. They come down. It's not the reverse. So here also Bhagavan has given the highest Vedanta. Now he is coming down step by step. Now he is taking the that the self cannot be killed by any known means of destruction. The known means of destruction are fire, air, water, space, and even through earthquakes. Because these are the five elements available. So all known means of destruction are through earth or things made up of earth, like your sword, pistols, all that are made up of earth. Then fire, then floods, water, then space, jam. So like this, there are known methods of destruction, Bhagavan says, even these known methods of destruction cannot bring destruction to the self, because self is subtler than all these known methods of destruction. The subtle cannot be affected by the gross. Like a sword cannot cut water, it's gross. A sword cannot cut vapor, it's gross. So the gross cannot cut the subtle. The sword cannot cut the air also. The sword cannot cut the space also. Sword cannot cut fire also, because that is gross product of earth. So all these compared to the self are gross. These gross instruments cannot cause the destruction of the subtle self. When you say subtle in Vedanta, it means that is the inner core. Body is gross. Relatively, the inner core is mind, subtle. Relatively, the intellect is subtler. Relatively, the intellect, the vasanas are subtler. Subtler than all these is Atma. That means is the innermost, number one. Number two, when you say subtle, it occupies larger area. Body can only be here. Mind can travel everywhere. And the mind also can only travel in known areas, whereas intellect can probe into unknown areas, therefore it is subtler. Vasanas are the very basis of the intellect. They extend from previous life to this life and from this life to the next life. So the vasanas. So according to the area of their predominance, of their occupation, of their function, they are called subtle. Spirit, being all pervading, is the subtlest. This is the meaning of gross and subtle. So at the subtler level, you can feel greater presence of this consciousness as existence, as knowledge, and as bliss, ananda. So now he is taking this process of destruction through known methods of destruction. He says, Nainam chindanti sastrani, Nainam dahati pavakaha, Nachainam kledayantyapah, Nasoshayati marutaha, Achedyoyam adahyoyam akledyo asosya evacha, Nityaha sarvagataha sthanuhu, Achalaha ayam sanatanaha. Shastrani, weapons. Chindanti, cleave. Weapons cleave this self not. Because self is subtle, weapons are gross, number one. Number two, self being all pervasive, no, nothing can cut, because to cut, you need a few criteria. One, there should be something other than it to cut. The weapons themselves are only appearances of the self. They are not different from the self. Number two, when you want to cut, there has to be space where which the instrument can move. I want to cut wood. There should be space to move. There is no space where self is not. Therefore, weapon cannot also move. Then, when you cut, the wood has to move. When you cut, the wood has to move. Again, Movement is not possible in the self. Therefore, na enam chindanti shastrani, na dahati pavakaha. Fire cannot burn it because the very power in the fire to burn is lent by the self. Without the self, nothing can operate. There is a story in Kenopanishad. All the devas were telling when they conquered the Rakshasas, because of me, because of me, because of me. Mother Shruti, out of compassion, appeared before them and said, and proved to them that not because of them, it is because of this Brahman that they could do. So fire itself cannot burn without this Brahman. Na enam dahati pavakaha. Na cha enam ledayanti apaha. Water cannot wet because water to enter, there should be porous. In self, there is no porous, so water cannot enter. Na soshayati bharataha. If there is no water, wind cannot even dry it. Wind can only dry when there is moisture. Therefore, achedyoyam, it cannot be cut. Achedyoyam, adahyoyam, it cannot be burnt. Akledyoyam, it cannot be wet. Asosyam, it cannot be dry because it is nityaha, eternal. Sarvagataha, why eternal? Sarvagataha, all pervading. That which is all pervading has no boundaries. That which has no boundaries is infinite, which cannot be destroyed. Sarvagataha, sthanuhu, stable. Achalaha, motionless. Why two words are used? Motionless and stable. Stable by its own self. Achalaha, even in us, self doesn't move. Because of the self, the body moves, but self is there even in the relative instruments. So, relatively also, it is motionless. And by its own self also, it is stable, like a tree is stable at the root. A tree is stable at the root, but can move on the branches. Self has no motion, either absolutely or relatively. So, therefore, to say these both, he says, Tanuhu stable, Achalaha motionless. And then he gives one more logic. Avyakyoyam, achintyoyam, avikaryoyam uchyate, tasmadevam viditvainam na anushochitum arhasi. Self is unmanifest. When you say manifest and unmanifest in Vedanta, manifest is that which can be perceived by the senses. Unmanifest is that which cannot be perceived by the senses. So, if senses cannot perceive, how anybody can act on that to destroy? Avyakyoyam, achintyoyam. It cannot be thought also because the very power with which thinking is possible is the self. When that self is objectified, there is no subject to see the self. Like you see everything through the telescope, but you want to see yourself and come before the telescope. There is no seer there, subject is not there, and therefore achintyoyam, it cannot be thought of. Avikaryoyam, it cannot be modified because for any modification you need space, and since there is no space where it is not avikaryoyam, it cannot be modified. Hence, it cannot be destroyed by any means. Tasmat evam tasmat evam viditva yenam na anushochitamasi. Arjuna, thus having known that this self cannot be killed, you should not grieve that you are going to be the cause of all these people dying, because essentially all are only the self. Therefore, nobody dies. That is what Krishna is saying. And now he comes down little more from the normal seen type of death and common sense. He says, Atha chainam nityajatam nityam va mannase mritam tatapi tvam mahabaho naivam shochitumarthasi. If you say that whatever is born must die, it implies whatever dies also is born. Because when something is born, the previous condition is dead. So death of the previous condition is the birth of the new condition. So when something dies, it takes another form. So if you say whatever is born must die, whatever dies also is born in another form. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu dhruvam chaiva अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्माद् अपरिहार्यार्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि. It's inevitable. Things born must die, and what is dead is born. So over inevitable things, where essentially there is only a change of name and form, nothing is lost, you should not grieve. And then he gives one more logic. Avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. Avyaktadini bhutani. Beings were unmanifest before. Vyakta madhyani bharata, they are manifest in the middle. Avyakta nidhananyeva, they at the end again become unmanifest. Earlier they were unmanifest. In between they become manifest. Finally again they become unmanifest. So therefore, avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. So unmanifest to manifest, manifest to unmanifest. So it's going to its own source, like the wave which was unmanifest earlier became manifest. Then it again merges into the ocean. So it appears from its source, stays there, again merges back into its source. Therefore, again you should not grieve for. And when this much is said, in Arjuna's face, he could see wonder, a state of astonishment. Why? Because all along he has been thinking a mortal, an individual. Presently, he is made by Bhagavan's unassailable logic that he is God himself. So therefore, it's a wonder for him. Not only that, not only he is wonderstruck with logic, he is also wonderstruck. How is it I cannot know myself? How didn't I know this? How I didn't know this? So therefore also wonder. Wonder means it's always good, positive. You don't say wonderful murder. Always you use the wonder only for good things. Right? You will never use wonder for negative things. So therefore, it's a wonder. What is a wonder? Gurudev explains. When you see something, your intellect immediately says this is that. When you see a chair, intellect says this is a chair. When you see a house, intellect says this is a house. When you see a dog, intellect says this is a dog. But where you see something, where the intellect cannot explain, that is a wonder. If you go on the road, see somebody with 3 heads, it's a wonder because intellect cannot explain that. So this self, the intellect cannot explain, and he could not himself, till Bhagavan pointed out, feel it. So he, he here Krishna says, Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidena. Everybody, when they try to visualize this self, experience this, they see it as a wonder. Ascharyavat vadati tata evacha anyaha. And when the speaker speaks also, he seems to speak something which is rare, which is wonderful. As I said, wonder is always positive. Wonder means glorious, rare. It's glorious, it's rare. So when somebody hears also, he hears it as a glorious thing, a rare thing. Wonder of wonders, even after listening to this, Acharyavat cha enam anya shrunoti, shrutva penam vedana chayugas. First wonder, you didn't know yourself. Second wonder, even when somebody tells you, you are not able to understand. You didn't know you are that. It's okay, forgivable. But when somebody says that also, you are not able to visualize it because your mind is too preoccupied with paltry, filthy matter. So is concluding that section, Dehi nityam avadhyuyam, Dehe sarvasya bharata, Tasmat sarvani bhutani, Natvam shochitum. We have a body and we are the soul. The essential me is called the indweller in the body, and my house where I reside is the body. It's called Deha because it's burnt. So, but the indweller is not burnt. So, Dehi, the indweller in the body, Nityam Avadyoyam, is ever indestructible. Dehe Sarvasya Bharat. The one in this body is ever indestructible. Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani. So is the case of all beings. Natvam Shochitum Arasi. You should not grieve far. So about the self, he said. Now he comes back. How he should act, why he should act. I said first is philosophy. Next is Yoga Shastra. So he is going to enter into Karma Yoga. Before entering into Karma Yoga, he is giving all the preliminaries, why he should act at all and how he should act. These are the two things in Karma Yoga, why he should act and how he should act. Right? Why he should act, he says, Twadharmam api chavechya na vikampitum arhasi. Dharmyadhi yudhrat shreyaha anyat kshatriyasya na vidyati. You are a Kshatriya. Kshatriya means one who cannot stand injustice, who tries to eliminate injustice and establish justice. This is called a Kshatriya. You are a Kshatriya by birth and by temperament, because the caste is determined not merely by birth, but by temperament and by the occasion. If you are a teacher, You are a Brahmana by only vocation, but not a real Brahmana. A real Brahmana should have sattvic qualities, guna. So, both ways you are called a Brahmana, guna and karma. But mere karma is not good enough. Your Brahminhood should be testified by your gunas. So, here, by all the three standards, you are a Kshatriya. You are born into a Kshatriya family. You come here to fight as a warrior, and your temperament itself, you cannot stand injustice. So this is your psyche, your personal call of duty as a Kshatriya. Swadharma, that's called Swadharma. Personal call of duty is called Swadharma. So this is your personal call of duty as a Kshatriya. And a Kshatriya should annihilate adharma and establish dharma. So he says, Swadharmamapi chavechya navikampitum arhasi. Even from that standpoint, you should not be unduly shaken. Because dharmyadhi yuddhat sreyaha anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. All of us have got our innate tendencies, which are called vasanas. According to these vasanas, we are called also Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, etc. These innate qualities, tendencies. Unless these innate qualities are eliminated from you, you are not totally liberated and you do not express your godhood completely. So these vasanas should come out. Normally, whenever you act, you add more vasanas. If I like laddu, whenever I eat, my like for laddu reinforces. If I hate some food, whenever I eat it, my hatred for it increases. This is true in all cases. When you act, you all the time gather likes and dislikes. So that goes on reinforcing our vasanas, which means goes on covering the self. More and more you live in ignorance. So if this has to go, your inner tendencies should come out, no new tendencies should go in. When you do anything with ego, you gather. When you do it for a noble cause, your inner tendencies come out, but you don't pick up new vasanas because there is no ego, there is no selfish desire in that. You don't pick up new vasanas. New vasanas you pick up only when you have a personal like and dislike and ego. Where there is no ego, where you are working for the cause of totality, the existing vasanas come out in the field of action, but you do not take new vasanas. So, if that is the case, you need a field of action. For a Kshatriya, you need a war to exhaust. That's unfair. To exhaust my vasanas, I should create wars. Bhagavan says, no, you should not. But if by providence you have to face a war to annihilate adharma, it's called dharma yuddha. That's a great opportunity for you to exhaust your vasanas because you didn't ask. Bhagavan provided. So it's an opportunity for you. So he says, so dharmamapi chavechya navikampitum arhasi dharmyadi yudrachreya anyat kshatriyasya navidyati. For a Kshatriya, there cannot be something nobler and greater than fighting for a righteous battle. And this has come to you without asking. Yadruchya cha upapannam swargadvaram apavutam sukhinaha kshatriya partha labhante yuddhamidrusam. Without your asking, this opportunity has come to you. Yadruchaya on its own. So You, through this war, exhaust all your suppressions and all that, and to that extent you will experience a greater joy, which is called Swarga. We have 5 states of elation of the mind, 5 states of depression of the mind. The 5 states of elation of the mind are called higher worlds. 5 states of depression are called the lower worlds. Bhurbhuvasvaha, Satyaloka, Maharloka, Brahmaloka, 7 up, 7 down, Atala Vitala Patala, Rasatala, Talatala, and all that. So, since you have cleansed yourself from these suppressions or vasanas, you will enjoy a greater state of happiness, which is called Swarga. So, that is without your asking open to you. And a Kshatriya who gets this is very lucky. Shukina Kshatriya Partha, Labhante Yuddhamitusha. And now he shows in contrast, if he doesn't fight, what happens? Ata chetamimam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tatasva dharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsasi. In case you do not fight this battle, in case you do not fight this battle, you hurt your own personal call of duty because you are not doing it, and therefore there will be regrets. When you don't do something what you have to do, your mind will always regret. That's called papa. You are only incurring more and more causes for sorrow. What causes sorrow is also called papa. Tatas swadharmam kirtim chahitva. Your name is also affected. Your swadharma is also not scattered, and you shall gain only sources of sorrow. Papam avapsasi. Akirtim chapi bhutani katayishyanti devyayam sambhavitasya cha akirtihi marana datirichyati. And all people will start talking all sorts of things about you. This fellow is a eunuch. In fact, he was a eunuch in Virata Parva. He's a coward. All this they will talk if you don't fight this battle. He saw Bhishma, Drona, and he ran off. And he cannot even hold his sword properly. Akirtim chapi bhutani katayishyanti devyayam sambhavitasya cha akirtihi marana. For one who has been glorified up to now, ignominy is worse than death. For an ordinary man, somebody calls him a fool, it won't matter. But somebody who has been highly honored, if somebody says he's a fool, it matters a lot. So it's worse than death, he says. And people will say, Bhayadrana duparatam mansante tvam maharataha yesham chatvam bahumataha bhutva yasasi laghavam. People will not say, you left the war out of compassion. They will say, this fellow left the war out of fear. And you who have been esteemed very high by all these soldiers and their leaders, you will now become an object of their contempt. Avachyavadonscha bahun vadishyanti tavahitaha nindantastava samarthyam tato dukkataram. They will speak words that are words that should not be spoken of. They will bring down your image through all sorts of false accusations. Right? So, akirtim chapi bhutani katayishyanti devyayam sambhavitasya cha bhutani sambhavitasya cha akirtihi maranadati tuchyati. Bhayadranad uparatam bansante tvam maharataha yesham chatvam bahumata bhutva yasya lagam avachya vacha vadanscha bahun vadishyanti tavahitaha nindantastava samadhyam tato dukkataram. What is worse than, let them talk something. But if they start talking about your ability to fight, you have such a man who fought battles for Indra, etc., such a man who single-handedly got victory for the Pandavas in the Virata Parva. If now they say you can't even hold your sword, right? That's very bad. So, like saying the Tendulkar cannot even hold his bat. It's bad. It's talking like that. Nindasta samathyam. It's horrible. Tato dukkatarannakim. There cannot be anything which gives more sorrow. And now, what happens if we fight? Ato va prapsasi swargam. Jitva va bhuchase mahi. Tasmad uttishta kaunteya. Yuddhaya krita nischaya. If you are killed in the battle, all your suppressions, vasanas have come out. So you take a better life or go to Swarga if you are killed. If you win, these vasanas have also come out. You enjoy mental state, plus physically this whole kingdom become yours. Hato va prapsase Swargam. Jitva va bhochase mahi. If you win, you get, apart from the Swarga, you get the entire kingdom. And therefore, Tasmad Uttishta Kaunteya, son of Kunti, get up. Yuddhaya Krutanischaya, having decided to fight this war. Now, when we say the fight this war, it means for all of us fight this battle of life. We will always get continuous challenges supplied free to us by God, because it is through these challenges you grow. Without challenges, you cannot master your mind. It is through challenges you master your mind, and as the mastery of mind goes, the person's stature grows. The final conquest of the mind is Godhood. So without challenges, your life is wasted. So God gives you all these challenges. Therefore, to run away from them is to lose an opportunity. You have to fight. But if I have to fight, are all people who are fighting get Swarga? Do they exhaust vasanas? No. A person who does anything with ego quotes sorrow, death, because the ego is finite, it's attached to matter, and naturally it can only experience insecurity, death, and sorrow. So anybody who works with ego doesn't find redemption. So if even in work or fighting the battle, you should work with a particular attitude. And when you work with that attitude, karma becomes karma yoga. Action becomes a means to attain the self, which is called yoga. Your karma becomes karma yoga. So, how should you fight this battle of life? Next sloka is one of the three very important slokas which explain karma yoga in Gita. This is number one, chapter 238, and chapter 247, and chapter 330. So here he says, Sukha dukkhe same krutva, labha labho jaya jayo, tato yuddhaya yujyasva, naivam papam vapsasi. Krishna says, Swamiji says, it's not important what to get out of action. It is important what to become out of action. So, action is not what to gain. Action is what to grow out in maturity, in your stature through that action. That's important. So the results are not very important. For an ordinary man, a loss of few thousands is enough. His life is destroyed. For somebody, lakhs is somebody destroyed. For some other person, 1 crore, 2 crores, his life is destroyed. But a business magnate like Ambani's, Birla's, Tata's, even a loss of 1,000 crores doesn't affect them. Or today they lost 1,000 crores in the market. Next day they gain 1,500 crores. When they lose 1,000 crores today, they are not depressed. When they get 1,500 crores tomorrow, they are not excited because they are too big for these losses and gains. So you raise to the level of God so that the sukha and dukkha, you will be able to see them as paltry things, as too paltry. Raise your level, raise your bar, raise your dimension. Number one. Number two, sukha, when it comes with hidden dukkha. And dukkha has to leave, and there is relative sukha. They come always in procession, one after the other. But you remember both. So therefore, you have to be different from sukha and dukkha. Then only when they left, you didn't change. When sukha left, you didn't leave. When dukkha left, you didn't leave. So there, but without you, they can't be experienced. You can be there without them, like in sleep. So therefore, you are the one who support them. Who you are the one who bring them into your awareness. So you are the substratum. And what is your nature? Bliss absolute. So sukha, dukkha comes. They are finite in nature and they are mortal. So what you do? Do not be engaged in them, because if you get engaged in sukha, that will itself become a sorrow, because anything that you get attached will become a source of sorrow, because you want to repeat it, you don't want to lose it, you have fear. So sukha and dukkha, when your mind is in that, it's always in agitation, insecurity. So to escape that, you need a greater happiness. Like the businessman doesn't bother about a loss of few crores or gain of few crores because he's in higher stature. You need to experience a higher state of happiness. That is your own real being, which supports these sukha and dukkha. Without you, they can't be experienced. So you just be a witness. Sukha dukkhe same krutva. Labha alabha. Sukha dukkha at the level of the mind. Labha alabha at the level of the body. Jaya vijaya at the level of the intellect. Because victory and defeat are concepts of the intellect. So these three levels, body, mind, intellect, always encounter opposites. And you try to keep your alignment with your own being, not be carried away by them. Sukha dukkhe same krutva. Labha labho jaya jayo. Then why to fight if I am not interested in joys and sorrows, profit and gain? For your own growth. Yuddhaya yujjasva. Action is for its own sake, not for the reward. People work for the reward who are small. Big people do not work for the reward. It's a joy of doing that work. It's a joy of producing that work. An artist never bothers who appreciates how much money he will get. A real artist, he is not bothered. How many appreciating, how many not appreciating, how much money he will get, he is not bothered. His joy is in the very production of his masterpiece. That's his joy. So therefore, yuddhaya, for the sake of battle, you must fight with just. So that is the crux of Karma Yoga. He shall now give us more details about that. He says, Esha tebihita sankhe buddhi yoge tu imam shrunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasati. Up to now, I have given you the Sankhya, the Gnana, the nature of the self. From now onwards, I shall give you the Karma Yoga, Buddhi, Sankhya Buddhi I have given you, Sankhya, logic, Gnana, Buddhi. Now I give you Yoga Buddhi, that is the wisdom concerning the yoga. I have given you the wisdom concerning logic earlier. Now I shall give you the wisdom concerning the yoga. Imam Srunu, Buddhya Yukto Yaya Partha. You aligning with this mind, intellect, conviction, how you shall cross over this finite ego and cut asunder all these vasanas which make you a slave all the time to action. You cannot keep quiet without acting. And when you act, there are always dualistic results, sometimes happiness, sometimes sorrow. You have to get out of this. If you have to get out of that, this is the way to work. Go beyond the pairs of opposites, feel the presence of the substratum on which this happen, right? And he says, this Yoga Buddhi I have given, Sankhya Buddhi I have given earlier, now I shall explain to you this Yoga Buddhi through which you can cut asunder all the bondages. And now he is telling, he is now comparing with this concept of Karma Yoga. That is, earlier in the days where society is not highly corrupted, Karma Yoga means rituals, because by doing daily Nitya Karmas and rituals, they could purify their mind, because their mind was not preoccupied with several things. And when Kali Yuga came, they have no time to do the rituals. And they have too many vasanas. So what to do? So Veda Vyasa, through Krishna, gives us a scheme where you don't have to do the rituals. You don't have to do any action separate for purification. Whatever action you are doing, that itself, with to do with the right attitude, that becomes Karma Yoga. So Krishna is now going to talk to us the Vedic Karma Yoga rituals and the present Karma Yoga Vyasa is going to say. Is going to compare and says this is superior. And he says, Neha Vikramanashosti Pratyavayomana Vidyati Swalpamapyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. In the rituals, if the ritual could not be completed, you have lost all the effort. It happened to us. We were doing some homa. On the fifth day, the Purohit died. Our homa has to be discontinued. Navagraha homa. On the fifth day, the Purohit died. So we had to discontinue. Or even crops, you sow the seeds. Rain doesn't come. Your effort is lost. Your effort is lost. So in rituals, the effort is lost when you do not complete it. When you do not do him properly, also it's affected. That is, you have sown the seeds, rain has come, but pest has come. Pest, it eats away the crops. Or when you are doing the Karma Yoga, instead of pronouncing the word properly, you pronounce a wrong word, you get the wrong phala according to your pronunciation. This is called pratyavaya. When a doctor does not take the reaction test and gives a penicillin injection, the patient can die. So in karma, these two are there. One, loss of effort. Another, contrary results. Krishna says in karma yoga, both these are not there. There is no loss of effort because it's only an attitude, it's not an effort. And to the extent even a little you follow, you are benefited. And there cannot be any contrary results in the karma yoga I am suggesting. So, neha vikramanasosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayato mahato bhayat. Even a little of this karma yoga, when you try to do, you detach from the body, mind, intellect, and therefore it will save you from the fear of death, etc. This karma yoga. So you must do it. And as a great salesman, Krishna is going to give us a lot more reasons why this karma yoga is superior, why he should take to this karma yoga. All that is going to say. We shall see them next class on Wednesday. Okay. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya